So if this were a vinyl album, the natural song to start off side two would be "Get on Your Boots." You've probably heard this song already. It's a single. It's a really loud kind of riff-driven rock song.
It's the commercial for the album in a weird way. It's a
Yes,
commercial song, very much
yeah. If
so.
it's not an iPod ad, it should be.
Yeah, yeah. That's why it's totally the vertigo of this album. There's, they will sing this in concert. This and Vertigo will be tied right together. It has to be. There's that very pop, slick, 3.5 minute kind of perfect little pop song in there. Which, interestingly enough, a lot of U2 fans aren't. They're all kind of like, whatever. But what's your experience with this song? I know you had a kind of change in heart with this.
Yeah, when I first heard it, I thought, oh, they're trying to be some big rock band with the big rock riffs. What are they? Why aren't they happy just doing what they do well? But as I listened to it more, it grew on me. Not, the rock riff part is fine, it's fun, but what I really like is the harmonies on the chorus where they do the "You don't know how beautiful you are." That kind of harmony just isn't something I'm used to hearing from them, and it's also slightly kind of Middle Eastern sounding, which I thought was pretty cool. So that kind of changed my mind about it, and 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 the breakdown in the middle is pretty cool.
Well, because I think everybody was saying how this is so different and from the rest of the album. Maybe it's more polished, but I feel like the kind of the odd changes again. The verses and the chorus, they're all very, very kind of jarring. Somehow they work. To me, that's the tie to the album, and that breakdown. That is just like the best. That like, let me in the sound, let me in the sound. That's like the best that Larry has sounded in a long time. And that to me was like, okay, now we're in our Led Zeppelin phase. To me, that breakdown is what kind of saves the song, and really, it's that part I'm looking forward to throughout the whole song.
Yeah, and I don't know if you noticed. It looked to me when they opened up the Grammys,
Yeah,
they started the song with, and then they went into the riff.
I
So they
thought
started the song.
when I first heard it, I'm like, if they do a remix of this, I could see them starting that way too. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And that's kind of one of the many themes on the album, isn't it? Is "Let Me in the Sound."
Yes. Yes. Yeah. He definitely repeats that sentiment a couple of times, which to me just kind of means they're they obviously spent a long time making this album, several different studios. There was a false start with Rick Rubin, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think the "Let Me in the Sound" is kind of their way of acknowledging that they're trying to figure out what their sound is and what they want it to be, and it's like a puzzle they're trying to solve.
Yeah, yeah. So to me, it's a little bit of a standout. It's kind of the pop hit. It's kind of in the same place on the album that "Mysterious Ways" was, and I remember that song came out, and it's a good song. It's a great song live. It's an incredible live performance, but it's just so for me on Achtung Baby because that album is so out there, and that's exactly how I feel with Get on Your Boots. It's a good song. It's catchy. It feels like an iPod ad, and to me there's so many other songs that have these moments. So this one is like it's a good U2 song, but it is what it is.
The next one after that, stand-up comedy. You mentioned Zeppelin a minute ago. This one right away it goes into this riff, and I was like, oh, that's Led Zeppelin. And in particular, it sounded like the Immigrant Song.
Yes.
I was just like, I'm expecting to hear Robert Plant coming out saying, "Ah,
yeah." Yeah. And they have a Two Towers reference, and we know Zeppelin has a lot of Tolkien references. So that was really cool. I don't know if that was us grasping for things, or usually they're pretty. A lot of their lyrics have books and things like that, literary references. So who knows if that's what they meant or not. I was amazed at how funky this song is. I know Will.i.am of the Black Eyed Peas produced or helped co-produced one or two of the tracks on this. So I don't know if it's this one. It sounds like it would be. I couldn't find any liner notes online yet because my release copy didn't have them.
Yeah. That was another thing that struck me about this one, because I don't usually think of Adam Clayton as a great bassist, and I mean, he's admitted that he didn't even know how to play the bass when they started the band. But on this one, suddenly he's doing this funky bass stuff that to me sounds like Flea of the Red Hot Chili Peppers, where to me you're going from one of the not so great bassists to one of the great bassists. So I was really amazed and impressed to hear him playing that kind of stuff, and it is definitely different for them.
Yeah, there's a great guitar solo in the middle too. It almost, the way I kind of describe it in my head, it sounds like a chainsaw or something. This, and then there's like this Jimi Hendrix thing that goes on, and again, one of these little moments in the song that just make your ears perk up, and you turn the song up on the radio when it's already too loud the way it is. I think this is going to be this is a very rock radio friendly song. It'll be great with Bullet the Blue Sky and Love and Peace or Else. I could see a lot of rock fans who don't like U2 liking this song if they didn't know it was U2 and they didn't have their preconceived ideas about it. This is a big anthem, and even though the song is called Stand Up Comedy, it's the main part of this is stand up. I'm anxious to see how they do this live, what the video is like. I can see this being a big concert moment, and this is where the really interesting part of Bono talking about celebrity and our view of him as a political activist gets talked about. Do you have some of those lyrics? Did you jot those down?
Yeah, well, my favorite little sequence of lines in this song is he says, stand up to the rock stars, Napoleon is in high heels. And if I remember correctly, Bono's a short guy.
He's very short. He wears these thick soles on his shoes always, yeah.
All right, so Napoleon is in high heels. Josephine, beware of small men with big ideas. And so he's basically poking fun at himself there, because pretty much he fits all of those things he's talking about.
Yeah, so for him to make fun of himself, I think is good, because for me, and as cliche as it sounds, Bono is a big hero of mine. I'm glad he's addressing these political issues in this music. They've always been very political, but now he's very blatant. Some of the stuff's right about Africa, and a lot of the lyrics are like things I've heard him talk about in length, in his speeches about changing the world and stuff like that. So for him to actually start using those quotes as lyrics and kind of his mantra or whatever, to me as a fan of Bono the activist, is quite rewarding as well. And even that's a lot about, this is just kind of a funky pop dance song, but there's a lot going on, and I think this movie or this song will really be a big concert moment. I'm very glad they did this. It's a good rock song too.
So the next song is a really interesting two-part song, Fez and Being Born. Fez is just this really gorgeous atmospheric piece. It kind of, to me, this whole double song reminds me of The Unforgettable Fire. It's very moody, very atmospheric, and Fez is just an instrumental, except you do get the echoes of Bono in the background.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the same actual recording from Get On Your Boots where he's yelling, let me in the sound, and it's kind of echoing around. But the main thing is an instrumental, and it's just very, very unusual sounding. It's much more Brian Eno sounding than U2 sounding.
I found it to be like that's the little nod to Passengers. And yet I hear The Unforgettable Fire, and I never connected the Passengers side project with kind of this classic, pre-Joshua Tree U2, but it's definitely there, that atmospheric side of it. And definitely, again, Brian Eno, I heard he played or co-wrote like all but 2 of the tracks or something, so he's a big player. I don't know what Daniel Lanois, what his signature sound is as much as Brian Eno, but Brian is all over the place, and it's really cool to see them embrace this producer. It was a shame they didn't work more with Rick Rubin. I guess when the Saints Are Coming and Window in the Skies came from Rick Rubin, which I really like Window in the Skies especially. So, but it would have been interesting to see that take with Rick Rubin, but they're very comfortable with Eno and Lanois, so it's cool to see that sound come through on this song. And that second half, the Being Born, is so Unforgettable Fire. and you don't, and yet it's that nod to Passengers. It's just such a weird. You just realize those elements have always been there. To me, that's just classic U2. What makes you talked about this on our first run of this. This is our second recording of this, by the way, people. Why does this sound like Unforgettable Fire to you, the musically?
Well, a couple things. First of all, it's got those big single guitar notes that are paired with the vocal, so the guitar notes are playing the same melody along with the vocal, and that happens on Unforgettable Fire, and as well as the other big thing that happens, I think, only on this song is there's this big, huge reverb piano, and to me, the combination of those two things just screams Unforgettable Fire to me. And in fact, this song actually makes me want to go back and listen.
Yeah,
to the
I thought of that tonight listening to it. I thought the exact same thing.
It's been a long time since I listened to that, and I was like, oh yeah, this is one of my favorite sounds of theirs.
Yeah, and it's because I really got into U2 with Achtung Baby. That was my coming of age with U2. But I really went back to Joshua Tree. So now as an adult, I'm still kind of exploring the Unforgettable Fire, and it's a brilliant album. But that's neither here nor there. I did note too that the second part of this is very freeform. Again, I really don't know where the chorus is or the verses are, but it's so beautiful, and it's such an enjoyable song. You mentioned in our first recording I never even heard this listening to it, the being born part, and that's another aspect to this.
Yeah, they never say the words being born in the song, I don't think. So it's not one of those songs that's named after a phrase in the song, but they start, and it's got a bunch of water and ocean themes again, like there were in the beginning in No Line on the Horizon. It talks about Atlantic Sea and the curling wave, but then it has this line about head first, then foot, then heart set sail. And suddenly I realized with that he's actually drawing a parallel between birth and kind of setting sail on an ocean voyage.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really interesting. And that to me, that kind of continued the nautical theme that kind of is flowing through a few of the songs.
Yeah, and I just hearing the being born, again, to me, that's about an awakening, a rebirth, whatever. So what we said last night was you can see the ocean from where you live almost, or the bay at least, and I can see the church from where I live. So I'm totally hearing the religious side of this. I see it as more of a rebirth, which ties in with Magnificent and the first few tracks on the album. So sonically, it's a very different song, but thematically, it really works well. And it's a nod to the old U2 and some of their experimental phases. It's a really interesting song. This is one that kind of like Unknown Caller that we could really talk about for much longer.
Yeah, to me, this is my favorite melody on the whole album because it's got that kind of shaded, mysterious quality, Unforgettable Fire-like, and it's not straightforward at all.
Yeah, the guitar in this too, again, is this clean, kind of exquisite sounding guitar. The musicianship on this whole album is so pure, so crisp, and that's what I really like. It's good to, I like some of the chunky, murky stuff from Achtung Baby and pop, but to me these chimes almost, and especially you hear the chimes mirroring that piano part, is a callback to that. It's also a callback to like New Year's Day. We're going way back. So yeah, that's a good song. Now speaking of crisp sounds, our next track 9, is called White as Snow. This is a very stark, beautiful, simple song. Very simple compared to the rest of really probably the most simple song to this point. You said it actually, the lyrics or they give credit to traditional because it sounds like O Come Emmanuel. I hear an old Irish folk song in it too. Just kind of the whole I don't know what song, it just sounds like that. There's a simplicity in this song, to agree with our All That You Can't Leave Behind conversation. They somehow get a simplicity in this one that, even though they were more stripped down acoustic on All That You Can't Leave Behind, this one there's something going on that just makes it very simple, but really powerful and not weak in any way. It's hard to explain.
Yeah, there's a couple things about this one that make it interesting. It starts out with these kind of mellotron type sounding organ chords that immediately made me think of the opening to the Beatles' Blue Jay Way. And then later on, it has some horns come in.
They're great.
They really sound good, and they're an unusual thing for them to bring in. Overall, I would have to say though. And the other thing is, there's very prominent backing vocals by the Edge in here. I mean, I would say he and Bono are almost singing a duet, at certain points. But overall, melodically, this song doesn't really grab me so much. It is very straightforward in terms of its melody, and to me, it sounded sub U2. What I hear in this song is the band Big Country, which when they came out, they were kind of a knockoff of U2, and this kind of sounds like like their level. Like, it's good, but it's just not.
Yeah. Well, I think the vocals are such a throwback to that traditional Christmas song or some traditional Irish music or whatever. So this is the first song really on the whole album that the lyrics don't go all over the place and have these weird stops and starts. This is probably the most straightforward song on the entire album. Probably the most accessible in that way. Very user friendly. It's a great track. It brings up a lot of great imagery. I actually listened to it while driving in a snowstorm the other day, and the romance of the white snow was lost on me for some reason. But it's a great song. I think this would be a great live acoustic track. It reminds me of seeing Brian Eno performed a bunch of songs from the $1 Million Hotel soundtrack, which was actually a movie Bono wrote. And the soundtrack there's about 4 U2 songs on there, a couple from just existing songs, a couple new songs. Brian Eno does some stuff. I forget who else is on there. And there is one song called, no, I can't think of it offhand. I didn't take notes for this part. But Brian Eno it's like a duet with U2 and Brian Eno. And that really, I can hear that in White as Snow very much. So, again, he's joining the band. So, but it's a great song.
So from there we move on to Breathe, which is another kind of big anthemic call to arms type song. It starts off with these really big guitar chords again, really big like riffs that actually at times this song reminds me of Led Zeppelin again, specifically Kashmir, because there's parts where the strings do this kind of bendy thing that to me sounds very Middle Eastern and sounds like what Led Zeppelin did on Kashmir, where they got the guitar and the strings kind of going together.
Yeah, it's a weird mix of rock and the symphony or the strings that only Zeppelin could do. But to me, that's I didn't hear the strings right away. You just hear the guitar, and so after a couple listens, you're like, wow. And to me, that's the really exciting part of it. I think vocally, it kind of has that Lennon, a little bit like Come Together or Give Peace a Chance, kind of, or Dylan, that kind of that vocal, I don't know the stylings you call it, but where they're almost shouting out lyrics again, very freeform, whatever. But then it turns into this very uplifting track, very heavy on the instrumentation towards the end, where it's just this band playing this song. My first time through, though, I barely remembered it. But my first time through, to me, a U2 album is like an event. So I jotted notes down, and I'm literally overwhelmed by it. And after about the third or fourth track, Friday night, I was laying on the couch with the headphones on for the first time with it loud. And this song just moved me. Suddenly it just grabbed me. It's probably my favorite on the album, which is an odd placement, the second to last song on the album. Usually they have more moody, atmospheric stuff. They slow it down. This is a big, big rocker, big ideas, big uplifting vocals, drums, guitar. To me, it's just a stunning, stunning piece.
And the other thing I want to mention is that there's a lyric in here about inside the sound again. So this is kind of the last place where they bring up that in the sound, into the sound reference.
Yeah. And I was thinking to carry on the rebirth, that whole theme. Tonight, actually, when I was running, I thought of how important breath is, and your first breath. And again, breathing has to do with an awakening and breathing, coming to life and all this. So to me, it fits that whole idea of waking up and becoming something new and whatever. And that was really, to me, it just, again, it ties in so well. So, yeah.
So the next and final song on the album is Cedars of Lebanon. Now, just from the title, and I've said before, I'm a little wary of the overly, cliche and trying to be this big thing, U2. So right from the title, I was like, oh god, this is going to be one of those preachy songs. But actually, it's not. It's actually an example that he does several times on this album. It's an example of writing in the third person.
Yes.
This written from the perspective of a war reporter, and so it's not as heavy-handed with the message. It's not talking specifically about what the war is or why it's terrible. It's just this one person's experience and why life is tough for him right then. But again, it brings in a lot of these interesting, clever lines. There's one, I've got a head like a lit cigarette. There's one, choose your enemies carefully because they will define you. So
that's actually how the album ends, doesn't it?
Close to the end.
Close to that, yeah.
Lines after that. Yeah, so so actually I really like this one. It's really spooky sounding, and I really hope they're going to play it in concert. This will definitely make a really great moment in concert, a quieter moment, but a really powerful one. My only problem with it is that it just ends. And that would be fine for any other song, but this is the last song on the album. So it basically, at the end of the song, Bono just speaks, and most of this song, again, he's speaking. He's not singing as much. He just speaks the final line, and then the instruments all stop, and it ends. And the song that reminds me of is Bullet the Blue Sky. Most of the song is much more mellow than Bullet the Blue Sky, but the way, on that song it goes into the arms of America, and it stops. Mm-hmm. This does the same thing. He says a line, and it stops, and then the album's over. And I just sat there listening and thinking, well, no, there's going to be some kind of Beatles-like sound effect or an extra hidden track or something. There's got to be something, and there's not. And that's just jarring. It really feels unfinished.
You want more. You definitely want more. And my only hope for that, and again, that's not a bad thing. It's an interesting, because you definitely react to it. And I think that might be part of it, is that you're kind of left with this feeling of, not like I want more U2, but just kind of this feeling like, from the narrative point of view, I can see where that works. But as a listener, I want more. But rumor has it, I've been hearing Bono say this, is that they have 9 tracks ready to go for later this year for another album. And it's supposed to be a darker, moodier, nighttime album, as he called it. So I wonder if this won't kind of be the tie between the two. One of my favorite moments with U2 albums is listening to the Unforgettable Fire, where you have MLK that ends it with this keyboard that just kind of trails off. And if you play the Joshua Tree right after that, that same exact keyboard fades into Where the Streets Have No Name.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, you could almost, if you did a crossfade, it would bleed into each other. So I'm wondering if they don't do something like that with this other album. Who knows? The one thing I did like about this, I want to say, without listening to it, there's like more keyboards in this one, right? Is there some guitar?
Yeah, there's definitely not guitar riffs like there are in the other songs. It's definitely more atmospheric and keyboard based than.
But there are some guitar moments, and what I had jotted down on my notes was it has my Love Is Blindness moment from when I saw the Zoo TV tour that Mike and I both were at. What was that, 92? Yeah, September of 92, long before we knew each other. And this was at Camp Randall, a big stadium, under a full moon that night. And Love Is Blindness was the second to last song, I believe. I believe he ended it with an Elvis, I Can't Help Falling in Love. Love Is Blindness, and the Edge is playing this piercing guitar. And that song to me was so at the time, but it just came alive in that stadium. And I just remember this piercing guitar under a full moon. And to this day, I get chills now when I think about that. That's one of my favorite all-time concert moments. And there is some of that in this track. Even though it's from the third person, there's this despair in it reminds me of Wake Up Dead Man from Pop. And even there's the cursing in it. He says, what is it? Sometimes shit can bring a rose.
This city world sometimes produces a rose.
Yeah, which is funny. A weird placement for some, bad language, because in Wake Up Dead Man, it starts out, Jesus help me. I'm alone in this world. It's a fucked up world. It is too. So kind of that's a weird, this reporter that the song is about. You could almost take Wake Up Dead Man like he's alone with it too. So I agree. It's an odd way to end it, but I think it would be odder to have it be placed somewhere else in this very musical, uplifting album. It still fits. It fits with the album, but of course I'm going to want more. And who knows, the iTunes version that I pre-ordered has 2 other tracks on it, so I don't know what those will be. So maybe that'll fit in better. But do you have any final words about track 11?
No, that's basically it.
All right, let's take a quick break, and then we're going to come back with some final thoughts.
So, Gary, what are your final thoughts about the album?
Me likey. It's really good. It's not the departure that I thought it was going to be musically, but I think vocally it is. I was expecting another Achtung Baby, and what I got was Achtung Baby mixed with the Unforgettable Fire, mixed with How to Dismantle an Atomic Bomb, mixed with some Joshua Tree, whatever. It's so layered and rich. I think it's one of their better albums. I'm a little the wrong person to ask, what's your favorite, or do you like this? Of course I like it, it's you too. But it's up there. It's at least as good as their last album, which I absolutely loved. It's up there in the top 2 or 3 albums for me. I'm amazed at this point in their career they can do another album this good, this solid from start to finish.
Yeah, I would agree it's one of their best works. I would probably put it up there near the top. Probably my favorite album overall of theirs is Achtung Baby, and this would probably be right up there with it. Maybe slightly behind it, hard to tell, but yeah. Because I do like the experimentation, and like you said, it wasn't the huge radical departure we might have expected, but it's still, they've put a lot of work into this album. There's a lot of different sounds pulled into it. They've shown us that they can make albums where they don't lavish that kind of attention on them, and I hear a huge difference and a much improvement here where they have taken that time. So,
yeah, and that's what's amazing to me is for as much as I love How to Dismantle an Atomic Bomb, my one criticism is that everything felt too polished, like these perfect, pristine kind of pop songs. This one, it sounds like they spent more time on it, but they just added these goodies to it in these interesting pieces, versus polishing something up. There's still a real rawness there. To me, the musicianship sounds incredible. They're not afraid to have some long 5, 6, 7 minute songs where kind of the end it's just a jam. Some of my favorite parts on Atomic Bomb, like the beginning of City of Blinding Lights, the end of Crumbs on Your Table, the end of Original of the Species, had these great kind of just where you really hear the Edge, and you hear Larry, and you hear Adam playing together, and it's not just about Bono, it's about the whole band. There's a lot of moments like that on this album, and I really noticed how clean the Edge's guitar sounded. I know I've said that before, but just it sounds so good. But also, I really noticed Larry's percussion. I think Larry, I remember when Achtung Baby came out, Larry was really touched by whatever kind of jungle music he was listening to at the time. I believe it was called jungle music, actually. And now this, you can tell he's been influenced by Fez and Morocco and all that stuff. So it's musically, I think they're at their peak. I mean, it's incredible that way.
Yep, absolutely. And I agree with what you said about it's not so polished. There's lots of little rough edges. The time they've spent has been in playing with the lyrics and playing with different ways of making the song sound, not obsessing over, oh, that guitar has a little bit of an extra bit of feedback at the end, we better chop that off. You know, it sounds very in the moment.
Yeah, yeah. Because there's a lot of those little parts, like where they keep in the feedback, or they keep in a squeak, or something. And there's a lot of, like, we mentioned that Bono's always doing the oh, whoa, whoa, whoas and all that. His vocal, it sounds, a lot of it reminds me of, like, Boy. You know, he's got this rough, kind of really harsh, pushing vocal. It'll be interesting to see how he can actually perform these songs live, because it's such a strong vocal quality, and it sounds young. It sounds really fresh. So yeah, that's there. And there's even parts in a song where he'll, like, all of a sudden he goes, I forget which song it is. I think it's I'll Go Crazy Tonight, where all of a sudden he goes like woo woo, and then the instrumental starts, and it just sounds like you could tell that was just something that happened in the studio, and they said let's keep this. So yeah. And I like how thematically there are themes that go throughout this. It doesn't just feel like a collection of songs, where their last couple maybe teetered on the edge of that a little bit. This is solid from beginning to end. This is definitely an album. This is like a great rock album of the 70s, where it may have two distinct sides, but it's meant to be listened to from the beginning to the end. And the fact that they give these audio shout-outs to some of the greats, especially from the 70s or 60s, you can hear that in this music, but yet it still sounds current. So to be able to do that fine juggling act, to me, is another wonderful feat they've done on this album.
Well, it sounds like that pretty much sums it up. I would definitely say we have two resounding positive opinions on this album. And if you're any kind of a U2 fan, of course you're going to have it. But even those who, like me, have had their skepticism about U2 from time to time, if you're going to own a U2 album, this is one of the ones you should own.
Yeah, there'll be a lot of hits on this, for as much as they get played on the radio now. They're back on form. They really are. So yeah, for as frustrating as it was that this kept getting pushed back by years, and then all of a sudden it was supposed to be out by Thanksgiving, and it got pushed to February or March actually. It was very frustrating. I'm very impatient, and I just want this to happen. It was worth the wait. It's worth the hype. It's worth the buzz it's getting. It's not the buzz I was thinking it deserved, but it still deserves it. So, yeah, I'm not disappointed at all.
Well, thanks everyone for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this, and hopefully we'll be able to do more of this kind of thing in the future, because you might have noticed that both of us are a little passionate about music, so if you are as well, we might enjoy doing this more in the future, and hopefully you'll want to watch.
Yeah, thanks. We kind of decided, we both are at a place with our YouTube channels that this will be an hour long at least by the time this is on both videos. So if you watched it, if this is your thing, thanks a lot for watching. We just kind of want to get it out there and have our own little TV/radio show, whatever. So this is just great if anybody actually gets something out of this. So we hope to do more of this. And if you like this, tell us. We'd love to know what you think and what kind of reviews you'd like to see. And tell me what you think of having the MP3 as an option to download as well.
All right, so thanks everybody, and we will catch you next time.
Talk to you later. Bye.